It's good to be back. Thank you. As always, please, in your bulletin for this morning, you'll find a communication card. Please just pull it out. It's kind of hard paper. Pull it out. Just put your name on it, and just stick it in the bulletin. The offering plate as it comes by lets me know you're here. Lets me pray for you if you have any prayer requests. Secondly, also in your bulletin for this morning, you'll find a sermon notes. They look just like this. I invite everyone to pull them out, pull out a pen or a pencil. I invite you to follow along. We're starting a brand new sermon series this morning. That's going to be a short one, only a few weeks, that I've entitled "The Trap of Comparison." We live in a culture where by nature we look side by side. Right? We look to our left, we look to our right, see what our neighbors are doing, and we think, wow, if I could only have what they have. So, I was in Virginia before I went to Jersey. I was at my brother's house. He's got this big, giant patio and deck. I was like, wow, this is impressive. He goes, well, my neighbors on both sides were building theirs bigger, so I thought I had to kind of keep up. I was getting envious. It's what we do. It's a knee-jerk reaction to want to compare. Some of you guys know on Fridays, I usually pick up lunch, and I drive to Sandy's work, and we have lunch together. We usually have it in her lunchroom. I like it. I get one of those little visitor badges. I feel like a pilot. I'm no longer Pastor Lissy, I'm Captain Lissy. And we go to the back room, and it's just a big, giant lunch hall, right, with a lot of people. And there's just all these long tables you sit. And so I'm sitting there, we're listening to other people, and then one lady says, oh, this weekend I'm flying up to Grand Canyon. And the lady she's talking to says, oh, this week I'm flying out to Las Vegas. Someone else says, wow, that's cool. Next week we're flying out to San Francisco. Oh, that's nothing. We're flying out to Hawaii. Hawaii, we're going to the Virgin Islands. That's nothing. So that says we're going to Greece and Italy. I was like, wow, honey, we get to go to Jersey and Pasadena. Woo! There are many days that we suffer this trap of comparison. We really suffer from OCD. We suffer from OCD. You know what OCD stands for? Obsessive Comparison Disorder, where we compare ourselves constantly to everyone else. We kind of say, oh, what is everyone else doing? It's a comparison trap. And the problem is, it's never ending. Right? We're constantly comparing ourselves to everyone else. We live in the land of I didn't come up with this. A guy by the name of Andy Stanley had this quote. He says, we are stuck living in the land of What's the land of I want to be skinny-er. I want to be richer. I want to be smarter. I want to be talented-er. That's not really a word, I guess, but you kind of know what I'm talking about, right? We get stuck in this land of where we constantly want to do better. We constantly think, boy, if only I could be here, and it's never ending. It's an endless trap. And you want to know where it gets really sticky? Okay, this is where you're going to be like, okay, Pastor Gary, you're pointing a little too deep today. I don't really like it. Sometimes we do that with our spouses, don't we? Right? We say, if you could only be a little skinnier. What? Oh, Eleanor, don't shake your head. Sandy knows what I'm talking about. Honey, if you could only be wealthier, right? If you only do this, And then we try to make it sound better by saying, I'm just trying to get my spouse to reach their full potential, but really, what's it about? Me, right? How do people look at me? How do people look at me? Sometimes we even do this with our kids, right? Boy, I want you to do better, right? I want you to work harder so you get better grades, so you get into that great school. And it's an endless trap. But here's the first way to realize that this is a bad, endless trap. Are you ready for this? This is true. This isn't a Garyism. It's on your notes. When I compare, I sin. When I compare, I sin. There was this guy named King Solomon, one of the wisest men in the history of the world. And this is what he says in Proverbs 14:30. A peaceful heart leads to a healthy body. You want a healthy body, have a peaceful heart. But get the second part. Jealousy is like what? Cancer in the bones. Jealousy is like cancer in the bones. When we look around and we become jealous of what other people have, and when we begin to compare, it's like cancer in the bones. Boy, you look to one side, oh, my neighbors, they have such a nicer patio. Ours doesn't look anything like that. Oh, look at them, look what they're doing. Ours is nothing at all like that. I just wish ours was like that. It's like cancer in the bones. Because have you ever noticed whenever you try to compare yourself to other people, you always end up falling just a little bit short. Right? Just a little bit short. There's always they're just a little bit better. They're just a little bit better. And here's the problem with that. Here's the other reason that we comparing is sin. And that is, I know none of you guys have ever done this, but we're friends. You've ever known that person in your life that you know, they got their act together. Make good money, money in the bank, their kids all went to the right schools, they don't have an ounce of fat on them, they're like Mr. and Mrs. Atlas, right? They always say the right things. And then one day, you get the phone call. Did you hear what happened? They're having marital problems. They might be getting a divorce. Now, as Christians, what is our normal reaction that we say? Oh, that's too bad. So sorry to hear that. Yes! Yeah! Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Why do we do this? Because jealousy is cancer in the bones. So what do we do about this? What do we do? Well, King Solomon was the wisest, richest man around. He was Mr. Earth. He was he was more than Earth, he was est. He was the smartest, wealthiest, best-looking person around. In fact, he was so wise that kings and queens would come from all over the world to sit and just listen to what he says. In fact, this is what it says here in 1 Kings. In fact, his wisdom exceeded that of all the wise men of the East and the wise men of Egypt. He was wiser than anyone else. And one of the things that King Solomon does, he says, I want to help you get past this comparison trap that's endless. Because I realize that he also wrote Proverbs, and he says, I realize that jealousy is a cancer. I want to get you past this being always comparing yourself to those around you. So he wrote this book called Ecclesiastes. If you are in tabletop groups, I know some of the people love going through the book of Ecclesiastes, right? Right, Jay? So he wrote Ecclesiastes, guys, to help us get over this comparison trap. this is what he says in Ecclesiastes 4:4. Then I observed that most people are motivated to success because they what? They envy their neighbors. Wow. King Solomon was a student of God. And he's looking out and he's looking about at everyone, and he says, wow, you know what? What I realize is the reason that most people work so hard and what motivates them the most is because they envy their neighbors. That's why most people do it. Look at their patios. Look how great it is. Look at their front yards. Look at their cars. I want something similar to that. And then he says this. But this too is meaningless. It's like chasing the wind. It's like chasing the wind. He said all of this is meaningless. You'll never get anywhere. You'll always be trying to get to the next level. And he says it's like chasing the wind. Now you might say, well, wait a minute, Gary. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard because you can't catch the wind. Ding, 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 ding. You'll never catch it. It's meaningless because you're constantly trying to get something that you can't get. Because once you get to one step, you'll say, okay, this is great. I want the next step. And once you get to that step, it's the next step. Now, I know what you might be thinking at this point. You might be saying, well, Mary, are you saying that the Bible is promoting laziness? I mean, shouldn't we do our best? Shouldn't we work hard? Shouldn't we succeed in stuff? Are you trying to tell me that the Bible says that I'm being lazy? King Solomon is the wisest person on the earth. He knows what you're thinking. He's way ahead of you. Solomon reminds us it has nothing to do with being lazy. This is what he says. He says, fools fold their idle hands, leading them to ruin. Fools just fold their hands idly. So at some point when people were coming and hearing King Solomon say this, someone says, oh, so King Solomon, should I just be lazy? Is that what you're telling me? And King Solomon says, lazy? Are you kidding me? Look at my mansions. I've got many mansions. Look at my gardens. Look at my kingdom. I've got 3,000 wives. I'm not lazy. That's relationship goals here. That's not being lazy. And yet, he says, this is the important part. And yet, better to have one handful with quietness than 2 handfuls with hard work, chasing the wind. What does that mean? I want everyone to just put your right hand up like this. I see people on there. You go. I can see you guys. Emily, I don't see your hand. There you go. He's saying it's better to do this with quietness. Because when your hand is wide open like this, we can easily accept the things that God places in our hands. And when God takes things away, we're okay with it. It's contentment. He says this is better to have a quiet, peaceful heart with your hand like this than 2 hands what? Yeah. Than 2 handfuls with hard work chasing the wind. So take 2 hands now. Just like this. And this is what I want you to do. Are you ready for this? Joel, I see you. I want you to clench your fists as tight as you can. I mean, until your forearms are shaking. And I want you to hold it like that, as tight as you can, for 10 seconds. Are you ready? I'm going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now slowly release them. That's how some people live, isn't it? Two hands clutched tight, trying to hold on to everything they've got. And then if they have two hands clutched, what do they really want? They want a third arm to also clutch. And what does he say? This is like chasing the wind. This is like chasing the wind. That's what this is. Because an open hand means that we are content with what God gives us. Here's the point. In order to beat the trap of comparison, we need to open our hands and be thankful for what God has put into it. The moment we do that, we're happy with who we are and what God has given us. Because here's the answer to this. Contentment is the spiritual antidote to obsessive comparison disorder. Being content. Why is that? Simply because of the cross of Christ. The moment you realize that God, the creator of the heavens and the universe, the one who makes the universe work and the world spin, the one who has 1,000 cattle on hills, is your dad in heaven who loves you, who sent his son Jesus to die for you and raised to life for you, then all of a sudden you realize that Jesus is enough. That Jesus is all you need. And after everything else is just icing on the cake. Jesus is enough, and we can have peace. Ecclesiastes 4 says this. He goes on to say this. I observed yet another example of something meaningless under the sun. This is the case of a man who is all alone, without a child or a brother, yet works hard to gain as much wealth as he can. But then he asks himself, who am I working for? Why am I giving up so much pleasure now? It is meaningless and depressing. You see, King Solomon looks out and he says, I saw this man, he had no family, he was all by himself. And yet he worked and worked and worked and worked to gain as much as he could. In fact, years later, Jesus would tell a similar story. He would tell a story about a man building bigger barns because his crops were so good. And then one night, God says, you fool, this very night your soul is required of you. Who's going to get your stuff? That's what he says. Sometimes we're so busy looking around. Do you know, a study has shown, and I'm not bashing Facebook, that since Facebook came along, the rate of depression has skyrocketed. Same is true with Instagram. Why is it that with Facebook, something that we think connects us with everyone else, makes people depressed? Do you know why? OCD. It becomes a comparison trap. You start looking on your phone. Oh, look at these people. They're eating dinner out again. They're taking pictures of their food. Oh, look at these people. They're in Hawaii with the surf kind of coming up over their feet. Oh, look at these people are laying out in this. Oh, look at this. These people just bought a new house, a new car. But the problem is what we get is people's highlight reels. Did you ever hear someone say, put on Facebook, boy, I'm on vacation, but my hemorrhoids were really kicking in. I need some preparation H badly. No. But I want to tell you something. This is not a technological problem. It's not a problem of the internet. You know what it is? It's a matter of what? The heart. It's a matter of the heart. Where do we look? Where do we look? The answer is this: to be content with who God made me to be. Who God made me to be. Because God has made you to be the King's precious daughters and sons. His children that he loves, his children that he has redeemed. And with Jesus, he is always enough. Everything else is just icing on the cake. It's learning to live with open hands that are thankful, not clenched fists trying to get more and more and more. And so I want to leave you this morning with two hard questions that you can talk about at lunch. Number one, does what everyone else have keep you from being joyful? And number two, is there anyone in your life that you secretly want to see fail? Because here's the fact of the matter: you can't love someone if you're secretly wanting them to fail. Because then you're not wanting for the best for them. And Jesus gave you his best up front so that we might give our best up front to those around us. Next week, we're going to look about how in the New Testament, Jesus shows us what satisfaction is and what true joy is. Amen.